Hey everybody. So yesterday I finished up the um, all of the basically re-architecting to undo the damage that I had done by trying to do that memory leak early, and definitely learned a lot from that. And I think that was a very good exercise. I'm glad it happened. But that's behind us now. There was in the re-architecting, there was one pretty significant blemish that was left behind, and that is let's see, is it in here? Let me go back. Let me go to this view. Um, in here, where we basically the only way we can determine the form doesn't get the form gets messed up. So this form for updating things gets messed up unless we do this hack where we don't update the data. We don't update the table data unless the number of items has changed, and that's based deeply based on the assumption that the only way to change this number would be out here. So if you made a change out here, then that would get then the whole table gets messed up, and so you don't lose. And the thing we're trying to avoid is losing the focus. So when we make a change in here, so if we change this to say 6 in here, the whole thing doesn't end up getting messed up. So anyways, let me move that back to 0. Okay, so yeah, so now as per usual, I'm going to go to what the animation is because you know I'm not sure why people watch these videos, but there's kind of three parts. One where I kind of go over what I did before, one where I kind of describe what the animation that I created with my tool um, does and how it works, and one that is what changes I've made to the application in Angular. So there's sort of a two parts of it that are sort of Angular related, and one part that's sort of 3J, or one part that there could be some 3JS behavior, and one part that is just 3D animations behavior. So this is a very simple thing, and I just wanted to exploit my new feature of where I added the ability to animate the Z position. So up until now, you could only animate the or up until yesterday, you could only animate the X position. Yesterday, I added Y position. Well, the previous few days, I was adding Y position, which caused, which did not go as smoothly as I'd hoped, which then resulted in me realizing that there was a severe flaw in the architecture. And then yesterday I added Z position, which went as smooth as silk, which indicates that there is no longer the flaw in Z position, with the acknowledgement that we do have this wart, this little bit of hackiness over here. But that hackiness did not cause any other, didn't force any other hackiness, and that is, it's nice when it's just fully isolated. But so we have four meshes. One is called top, which is going to be this red one up here, bottom, which is going to be this green one, left, which is going to be the blue one, and right, which is going to be the yellow one. Let's just kind of see. So it's yellow. So I could change it to um, white by doing that, and now we got a white one, and then purple. Um, so that's that, and it's pretty simple in the animations. We did not no, we animated everything, and that, yeah, that was the whole point for Z. All so in order to get this sort of offset, like the top one is the slowest one. It's only moving to the 11th in the Z position during the animation, and then the fastest one is right, which is the purple one, which is 20. So if we were to pause this, and then we could see that the right one, and then it's still animating, but it's animated off of the camera, and the last one to go off the camera was there. So like, let's say we wanted to keep the red one on the camera. So let's say there was like some kind of like, I don't know, branding or something on the red one. See, and it's kind of cool because now we can actually see at the time of 1.3 seconds. That's where we're at. And so we could be like, oh no, I kind of want it to end right there in the front, or I want it to come straight on. So then we're like, okay, so we need to change the Y position on this. So we just easily select Y and change this to 0. And now we go, okay, boom. And that's how it ends, with this guy right in there. So we unpause to see what we got. So that would be pretty cool. Like if you had your logo or something in here, you know, and it's just like you end seeing the logo. And that's cool. So anyways, like I mentioned, this went smooth as silk, you know, so I felt really good about this. Had to make 2 interface changes. So the first interface change was, I'll just go with mesh. In the mesh, basically, I told it, oh, I'm in the wrong view again, mesh interface. So basically, I told it to change the Z position from a number to an animation property descriptor. So the next things are in animations. So I want to go and I'll just show you. An animation property descriptor has a start value, an end value, and a boolean, whether it's animated or not. So we could have made, make any one of these not animated. So we have this thing called animation interface properties, and this is a list of every property that is animated. And these are the 3, and I added Z position yesterday. And then there's these animations. So we have 3 object properties, which is just the position. Since I'm not adding a new position or a new thing, a new attribute, I'm just using the same attribute, just the Z position but like if I add a new thing, for example, let's go to the mesh. Let's say I want to make the width animation, where you can animate the width or the height or the depth. Those won't be at position. Those will be at size or something. And so then I'll need to add a new one there. And then we added a new property, the sub property of Z. So I think that makes sense. I think that's nice and clean. Now, let's go to animated items. So an animated item, so if you look up the animation, you have these choices, and that's driven by this. And so basically all I did was add the Z position. I told them that the actual value, which that probably should be property, is Z position, and then the 3 property is position, and the 3 subscreen. So basically that turns this little structure is kind of like describes everything that's happening in animations, which I love that. And then in the HTML, let's go to the HTML next. Mesh manager component. Let's not do that. We'll go back. So let's start here. So in the mesh manager component of the TypeScript, the very first thing, this broke as soon as I changed the interface, and the Z position had to be changed from being defaulted to 0 to a start value of 0, end value of 2, and animated of true. So I probably should change these to start and end value of 0 is animated false or something. I don't know. That'll be so simple to fix, so it's not really worth thinking over, pondering about. So now in the form, need to do change the way we're doing things so that it's getting the Z position and put it in here. So basically that is what goes into here by default, right when this, or actually this is a subscription. So this, whenever it retrieves it, it knows to get the Z position, but to put it into the start value instead of at the Z, because this is not a number anymore. I'm going to pause this. And then down here, so this is what sets up the form. And we basically, instead of just grabbing the Z position and putting it into the form, we're grabbing what's at the start value, which, that makes sense, right? So, and actually when I did add Y, all of this was clean. So there was no issues over here. This all worked perfectly. It's as you would expect. Every line of code that we did here makes total sense, and there's no red flags in my opinion on that. So we had to make one change in the HTML, and that's so basically in this view, the raw data view, instead of showing the actual Z, which would just show up as an object, we're showing the start value, which, that makes sense too. So, it doesn't take a whole lot to sit down and understand how that works. And then in the service, there's a good bit of changes. One, whenever we update the position, whenever the update, like if you do any changes on any side or in the mesh, instead of setting the Z position of the mesh, which this is a Three.js mesh, to whatever is in Z position, we set it to the start value. And then, so that's what happens on any update. We just change the start value. So you would think that we would do the end value, but we don't need to do the end value in here because we actually do that at the component level. And it might make sense. It probably does make sense to then also update the component. Yeah, no, it really doesn't. I was thinking we might, because basically the mesh that gets passed in will have the new end position. Three.js at this point during update doesn't care what the end position is. It just cares what its beginning position is. And I think that's fine. Yeah, okay, yeah, because that would be handled in the add. Okay, and then down here during the actual animation, I had to make a few changes. Some of them were just like housekeeping, like I got rid of these weird comments that don't make any sense anymore, and I moved the Z speed and set it to 0 here to the top. I removed it from here, and then I added this logic, which is basically the identical logic for all the rest of them. This is a pretty good candidate for maybe trying to make a single function that handles all of this. And I think that's it. Maybe here. Yeah, no, we went over that. Yeah, that's everything. So yeah, so I think it's coming along nicely. I'm kind of torn as to whether to work on like animating more things in mesh or animating lights. And I think both of them do present interesting challenges. One is interesting for mesh because we won't, like, if you look at the interface right now, all we support is position. So when I add another thing in here, another property in here, and other sub properties, there may be some unintended issues that I can't imagine right now. So that would be very interesting to move down that route. It would also be interesting to sort of, right now where we've really truly outgrown the concept of I hate saying we, because I just, like, if a recruiter's watching this or whatever, they're going to think that I'm not doing this all by myself, because that's just how they think. But yeah, and I've just gotten into used to saying we because I've been on teams for so long. But anyways, so I have totally outgrown this concept of modifying the rotation just by default. This got inherited from the original example. So I don't know. So it'd be kind of neat to move that one out. That is an interesting thing because it would require, changes all up the whole stack. But I think it is time to move on to lights, to animate lights. I think that's going to be very interesting in the animations interfaces. Right now, I believe there's a way that you describe what kind of, yeah, this animation pair, it says it has to be a mesh interface and it has to be one of the supported meshes. And let's go look at supported meshes. Right now, the only meshes are a mesh, these two types. So yeah, that is even more challenging now that I think about it, because um, the three object isn't going to be supported meshes anymore, because lights would be one of them. So I might need to add supported lights and do an OR here. Yeah, so I think lights is the next thing before things get too much farther, before things get too much more mature in here. So yeah, so tomorrow, so basically right after I get done with this video, I'm going to start working on animating lights, and I think that will lead to some really cool effects. Anyways, that's that, and happy coding, everybody. Bye.